The second thing that I like to do in my class is, and I do this for both male and female students in my class, is the pregnancy profile vest. This way, students can experience what it feels like to be 8, 9 months pregnant. And I go over the vest with them before I put it on them. So as you can see here, we have the rib constrictor, and it's got 2 little balls inside of it. And I tell my students that this is to stimulate when the infant is pushing up on mom's rib cage, because sometimes you have an infant that will get up there stuck, and it's painful. So then we go over the vest, and I talk about how the boob or chest size doubles. So we talk about the profile pregnancy vest, and so this is to stimulate the amniotic fluid sac with the baby, and it's got a little weight in it. So you would fill this up with water, and it'll float around, and it consistent movement, which gives them the feeling of the baby. And then inside you have a little pouch that's got another bean weighted, and it sits right above the bladder. And believe it or not, when kids take off the vest, they're like, I need to use the bathroom. So it's all fun. So let me just put this stuff back in here. But I go over it with them so that way they know what part is to stimulate what part. So you get this all in and everything and situated. And what I do is I send them in groups. Now I have the ability, I talk to my hall monitors in school first, and I ask them if they'd be willing to partake in stations. And I give the students a map. And at each station, they're doing something completely different. And I've shared this on my PowerPoint. At the first station, they have to lay down and try and roll up onto their side. The second station, they have to untie their shoe, take it off, put it back on, and tie it. The third station, they have to pick up quarters off the ground. The fourth station, they have to pick up a car seat with a RealCare Baby in it. From there, they leave and go up the steps to the next station, where they will do squats, or they'll do lunges. Then they pick up the car seat again. They come down back the stairs to this first station that they picked up the car seat, drop it off. Then they will pick up a load of laundry and come back to class. I do set a time limit because, they're only supposed to be in the hall so many minutes. You can do stations in your classroom. I am just limited on vests. And I want them to experience it the whole 50 minutes of our class time. So when they come back and drop off the laundry, I make them stand the rest of class and participate in class no matter what we're doing. So first off, before they get into it, I have them weigh themselves. I have them take their shoes off. Some boys and girls take their shoes off before they weigh. So they weigh themselves naturally, and they write that weight down. And then at the end, they will weigh themselves again with the whole vest on, so that they can see a difference. But I take the rib constrictor, and I have them, they help me, obviously. I have them put it on, and I'll position it right here, and I'll tell them to take a deep breath in, and then to exhale all the way out. And that is when I will tighten this. Because when pregnant, breathing is difficult. It's shallow, short breaths. The more pregnant you become, the further the 9 months go along, the more constriction that you have because of the weight that's on the front. And then we adjust the straps accordingly, because some of my guys that are in my class are my football players, and they're very broad-shouldered. So we strap those on. And then, let's see if I can do this by myself. And then what they do is I make sure that they take the beaded part, which is to sit on top of the bladder. I make sure that they put that right below, I would say, where is it at? Right below the belly button, which is kind of where the bladder sits. And I'll have them hold it. And then as you can see, you have snap in clips, and I will clip it and adjust it and make sure that the back, especially right around here, that strap that they have, I make sure that that's tight for the kids. It still gives them the feeling of back pain. Excuse me. It still gives them that feeling of back pain, but when they're going up and down the stairs, it's a little bit more support. They do have to write a review about the pregnancy profile vest, and what they thought it was. They first answer what they think it's going to be like, and then after they do the exercise, then they write their reflection. And we take photos and everything. We do a front profile, we do a side profile. The profile vest does come with t-shirts that you can have students put on over the vest if they are uncomfortable. Most of my students are just like, no, that's extra weight, even though it's cotton material, it is extra weight. But I find that this is it's more of a learning tool with the boys, with the male students, because they don't fully understand how they're like, oh, it's an added 30 pounds. However, what does it feel like? Is it uncomfortable? How does the baby move inside? And this is a perfect situation to give those kids that complete understanding of being pregnant. The girls always complain more than the guys do, just because they don't want to be seen with the pregnancy profile vest. But my guys have always had a little bit more fun with it. So like I said, I go over everything with them before I put it on them. And I do also make one for students who are under 100 pounds. I do not fill the water bag that's supposed to be the amniotic fluid. I don't fill it completely full as much, so that way it's less weight, just because I have had students in the past who are under 100 pounds and they can't keep it on at full weight capacity. So I normally have one put aside for people who are under 100 pounds, and everybody else gets to do full blown with water. So I hope you find this helpful, and I hope that your students are as accepting of it as mine are. Hello, I'm Ms. Dirksmeyer. I teach child development and parenting here at Centennial High School in Champaign, Illinois. Today I'm going to go over how I teach my students to put the RealCare infant baby into a car seat. Now, it is a station. I make it a station so that way when they rotate around the room, they have other things going on. But this one is probably the one that I have them stay at the longest, just so that they know. Normally, we go outside and we install a car base into the back seat of my car. However, due to it being negative degrees outside, I'm going to stay in today. But so I have here just regular car seats, typical lock-in place on the bottom. So some things that I go over with them, I show them how to use the handle. How to push in, and it goes down and goes all the way back, and it'll actually stop the car seat from rocking, and it's a safety measure. So I make them practice with that first. I teach them, you can have this up, once you're done, to help, throw a blanket over in the wintertime if you need to. But when inserting the infant into the car seat, it really should be down and out of the way. So then I go over the buckles. I go over the clasp, and then I go over how the seatbelt buckle itself locks in place and goes into the lock. And then I tell them push the red button, unlatch everything before you actually put the doll in. That way they get used to handling the latches and everything, and most kids will do exactly what I've done. They put the handlebar all the way back, so that way they have something to lean on. So then we take a RealCare doll, and I have them hold it, going from an elbow position into the car seat. So I tell them to take their free hand, put it behind the baby's neck, hand under the butt, and you are gently just going to lay them down inside the car seat. And then you're just going to move the arms up, and you are going to place these straps over the infant's shoulders. So like this, you have them over the infant's shoulders so that way you can clasp. Sometimes I will tell them that the seat buckle will get stuck under the infant's butt. And before you clasp the top part, you want to bring that up so that way you have everything together. So we clasp our chest belt, and then they put in the seat belt. And this one is giving me trouble because it's twisted. There we go. And yes, I even tell them it can be confusing at times, and it is frustrating that you hear that latch. So the child is completely in, right? You're done. No, you're not done. So with infants, before they grow up into being toddlers, they need support, right? So I tell them, I ask the class, what are we supporting? And they're like, the head and the neck. Correct. So I say we have to adjust the seatbelt, because right now I can get my whole hand in there, which means that the infant can move around, which is not safe. So then we go to the back where the straps are, and we pull these down. We make these a little bit tighter. We make them snug, as I like to say, snug as a bug in a rug. So then when they get a finger in there, I say, if you can get a finger in there, that's fine. But if you can get a whole hand in there, it is not tight enough, and it needs to be tighter. So then I also show them, pull up the handle. If you're gonna put a blankie in, you make sure you want to tuck it in, nowhere near the baby's face. And I have them carry it around the room like this first, just to see how heavy it is. And then I show them that if they take their hand and they hook it through and they grab the part where the handle twists down and they hold on to that and they balance it on their hip, it relieves so much pressure and it's not as heavy because you kind of use your body weight to actually balance it. So then, of course, I have them practice getting the infant out of the car seat. Because why? Well, remember how we tightened our straps? Kids often forget that. And when they go in to reach for the infant, they're like, Miss Dirksmeyer, it's stuck. It's not coming out. And you have to loosen the straps in the back sometimes. So you loosen your straps, you pull it out a little bit, so that way you can undo everything. Make sure it's stationary. Move all of the belts. Now they have a new way of picking up the infant. Hand behind the neck, scoop on the bottom, pull up, can go to the chest, can go to the nook of the arm, whichever is easier and more comfortable for them. I do turn it into a competition, especially if we are outside at a car. I will have them break up into groups of 4, and first one has to go install the car seat base, come back. The second one has to bring the car seat empty, no baby, the car seat into the car, lock it, secured in. The third one brings in the baby, puts the baby in. Fourth one comes in, takes the whole carrier out and the whole baby back. I know that RealCare Babies have monitors for car seats. And if you don't have them, I suggest you get them. These are great. They come up in your computer system, and they tell you exactly how long the baby was in the car seat, or if it was jostled or even flipped over. And so I have the baby on when they are doing this. So they're running back and forth, well, you're not supposed to run. So they're supposed to take their time. And so first done is great, but I like to see, we run up the program and we like to see whose infants was jostled the least amount, because there will be times where you're going to be in a hurry, but you also have to remember the sensitivity of an infant. So something fun that my students love, and when it is as cold as it is out today, we keep inside, and we do the same thing. We just put the base on a chair, because bases have seatbelts. You lock it around a sturdy chair, and same thing. It is just inside. So I hope you found this informative, and I hope that it brings you and your kids joy with learning the car seat as well as learning neck support for the infants. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa Priester. I come to you from Grayslake Central High School in Grayslake, Illinois. Up there in District 127, we have two schools, Grayslake North and Grayslake Central. I have had the privilege of teaching at both. Currently, I am just at Grayslake Central. I'm here today to share some of my experiences with the RealCare Baby 3 during the pandemic and outside of, before the pandemic. Also, I will be sharing a little bit about the Shaken Baby simulator and some ideas that you could do in a non-pandemic classroom, in a hybrid classroom, or possibly even remote. So, but first we're going to talk, RealCare Baby 3. A little background with it. I've been working with this baby since 2007, the RealCare Babies. Originally, we didn't have a class that it really fit in, so the school got behind me and allowed me to design a class, our family relations and parenting class, for this baby to fit in. Our class also covers teen issues, adolescent growth, family, and of course the prenatal development, labor delivery, all that, and infant care. Now, RealCare Baby was not new to me in 2007 when I first ordered. I actually had one of the earlier, probably, I wouldn't say it was the original, but my high school, Wheaton Warrenville, received the babies in, I think, 1996. I had the chance to do a mini project with one of our babies in 1997, the year I graduated, so I was a senior, and take the baby home and have it overnight or for like 2 days. I forget how long it was. In that experience, I loved and I hated at the same time. Looking back at my journals, I definitely did not enjoy the crying and the getting up and all the things that our students now complain about. I did. But I also, since I have such a strong connection to it, had a deeper impact on myself than I realized. So that's just my background with RealCare, and I've been working with Realityworks for a few years, helping them out and sharing what I do at school. So the RealCare Baby 3, the big question that we had when the pandemic hit was how are we going to prepare baby? How are we going to pass out baby, collect baby all safely while being in this pandemic? And I understand every school was a little bit different. Some schools were 100% remote, like we were. Some were hybrid, others were fully open. So everything was a little bit different. I'm going to speak from being 100% remote, okay? And I will also say that we did this in October, okay? My communications happened in late September, which, if you remember, was right before that big spike in November. So had I been a little bit later, I don't know if, everything would have come to be as it was. So, okay, first things first, I had to talk to the administration, the school, the district. What were they comfortable with? What was is this even a possibility? Making sure that my plan, and I had to have my plan first before talking to them, will work. Can we do it? Or am I reaching too far? Okay. I have students that sign up for my class because of this project. And they were in my, Zoom room every day. And they were like, Miss Priester, are we going to do this? Can we do this? I really want to do it. And it was tearing me apart, thinking that they might not get a chance to do this project because we're not going back. And even though we had these dates that we possibly were going to go remote or hybrid, I still was very hesitant. So getting the admin on track, letting them know my plan, and I'll share a little bit about how I did it to make sure everyone was safe, okay, and everyone was comfortable. So after, admin said, yep, I think, your plan's going to work. You can go forward. I talked to Grays Lake North, our sister school, about borrowing some of their babies because part of my goal to minimize my time at school, okay? Because again, being remote, and I had to choose what was best for me and my family also, along with what would be best for, my students in the school. So I knew I wanted to do 1 day. 1 day, pass out, 1 day, turn in, and of course that also meant 1 day that I had to go in and program. Okay, so that would be 3 days in the building that I had to schedule. We had, through different grants, we've gotten about, what do we have, 9 babies, okay, at each school. So I have a class, I had a class of 15, so I knew I had to borrow a few of them from Grays Lake North in order to pull that off. Thankfully, it was not a problem. Okay, as you know, working in our area, we share a lot. They were not running the class at that time, so that made it even easier. Looking back though, I feel like even if the class was running, it would have been no problem whatsoever for them to, for us to stagger our pass out dates. Okay, so I chose 1 day, pass out, 1 day, turn in. I had students sign up because the big thing with the admin was, everyone's not coming at the same time. You need to stagger it so that there was only 1 student there at a time. So I used the Google Forms. Google Forms I used a lot during this project for different questionnaires with the students. It was really, really nice. Highly recommend it. But it also, and then I also shared that data out with parents. I communicated a lot with my parents and caregivers or guardians during this time, more so than I've ever done with the baby project, with the RealCare Baby project. Moving forward, I'm going to continue that. The families understood the project better. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that. I mean, I've always communicated with the parents. They've always signed stuff. I've always sent emails about it. But this time it was, more student driven. And plus, when they picked up and dropped off the babies, many of them had their parents with them. And it was actually really nice to see them. And because we didn't have open house or anything like that, that was all Zoom based, From a distance, I got to see the parents and I got to see my students in person during that, which was probably the most magical time all semester, was seeing that group of students live, even if it was, just a moment under masks and, all this and so brief, but seeing them in person was definitely one of my favorite moments. So before I even passed them out, I washed all their stuff. I washed it, even though we had the babies, I passed out exactly almost a year prior. So they were definitely quarantined for a really long time, just to make sure. And I wiped them all down with some Clorox wipes before passing them out. I baggied all their stuff. So in there, I put their diaper. Well, baby had a diaper on it, and then the opposite diaper. The bottle, which again, I cleaned. The pink or blue outfit, which they had on, and then their bracelet and their chip. When students came I asked them, and I asked if their parent guardian was, if I could put it on, okay, with my gloved hands. You know, I asked their permissions first. I prefer to put it on. I've always put them on, you know, prior to this, so that I know that they're on appropriately, okay? Because of course we don't want them taking it off and giving it to someone else to do the project. If they chose to do it, then I just made sure I looked at it. Like I said, most of the students that were doing this project, they took the class to do the project. So they are eager to do it, and they're gonna, you know, follow the rules. So here's just my setup. I will also note that I programmed all the babies a few days before. And when I program them, say I set them to turn on, say at 9 a.m., but students weren't coming to pick them up until 11 a.m. So I automatically set them to go into daycare mode. And I do that during the programming process. When students come to pick them up, then I hit, you know, end that temporary daycare. And so baby is on automatically. And actually, I did have some babies that were crying as they were getting into the car, which in a way was kind of helpful. And I typically try to turn the baby on when they're in the classroom, so non-pandemic classroom time. I try to set it to a program that I know is going to turn on while they're sitting in my room, so that not only myself, but the other students are there to walk them through those first few moments when that baby's crying. It's always like a panic, like, oh my goodness, my baby's crying moment. And so being able to walk them through that. And a few of the students, that's exactly, you know, what we had to do, is walk them through those first few moments. And also make sure I plugged in all the right numbers. Okay. It's happened before where, you know, you're typing in that code for the bracelet or the chip, and you type in the wrong letter or number, and then obviously the chip doesn't work. So I'm always very thankful when I am there, right there, so that I can reprogram those. And, you know, mistakes happen. So all the baby logs and journals were on Google, and we use Schoology here in Grays Lake. You know, eventually all of their data from all the cries and their journals and their pictures that I have them take, or videos. Some of them did cute little videos. Some of them even did some like little TikTok videos. All of that got, you know, put into those slides and then submitted at the end of the project. So it was like a one and done sort of thing, which was really nice. I did give them, you see some papers in their hand. Some students requested that they have the papers to just write down when those babies cry. And I fully understand, you know, that mindset. They were, though, required to then transfer the information over to the Google Slides. So, and the link is there if you would like to copy it and use it and change it, tweak it, whatever, for your program. Now, grading modification. So we were, like I said, 100% remote. So we did not have that opportunity to practice with baby. Typically, I take a day and a half, if not 2 days, to have students physically practice with the baby. So they understand the head support, they understand how to change it, the chime, even where, you know, to chime the baby. I did 2 Zoom classes with them where I was demonstrating. I even had during one of them, my daughter manipulate the baby when she was home one day. So they could kind of see, you know, how someone else handling the baby that doesn't necessarily know how to handle the baby. So that was helpful, but it still didn't give them the hands-on experience. And because of that, I chose to not take off the points for the head support, okay, on that first day. Okay, so babies were handed out on a Thursday. we had class on a Friday, so I was able to help some students that were having some issues, okay? And also keep my notes about who is having issues with what. Also, if like the head support drop was during a feed, and then it also knocked out that feed, you know, I was able to adjust their grades a little bit. It took a little bit extra work, but in all, I felt that was fair. And with this project, I'm all about being fair. Everyone runs on the same medium types of programs. We all have this, you know, I try to be as fair as possible because, as we know, computers are their own beasts. And so what I can control, I control. Okay, so Shaken Baby. Shaken Baby is such a great visual tool. Okay, I used it a little bit during our remote. I did a couple of activities that I'll share. You always look back and you think, yeah, I could have done more. Okay. I've used it a lot in the classroom. And I mean, I did some things virtually and some things the kids did at home, but nothing compared to, you know, actually seeing it and doing it. Obviously, if you're hybrid or in person, this is easily, you know, the baby is easily cleaned. So I recommend, you know, using it if you can. So in the classroom, I do these baby care stations where they move around doing different cares. Okay. Diapering, feeding, bathing, and I use my RealCare babies for this. Okay. It gives them just another purpose. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little extra, you know, wanting to give them an extra challenge, I sometimes will turn on the babies. So when they diaper them wrong or they pick them up and they're dressing them, you know, and they miss not supporting the head, the baby will cry. And it just adds a little extra challenge if you want that during that. Again, it's all modified by the type of class you have that semester. But the safe sleep setup, so that's something cool that helps, you know, after we talk about SIDS, we do safe sleep setup. You could use a box. Sometimes I use my pack and play that I just can't get rid of, even though my kids are really old. And they design the bed. You know, they decide what goes into the crib, what doesn't go into the crib, and then in a reflective, you know, question on their sheet, they tell me why they did what they did. Okay. Also in that is the Shaken Baby, and using some of the slides from the PowerPoint from Realityworks. I print out some of those slides that they read about, you know, what triggers, and then they have the opportunity to test it out. And, you know, they see the part of the brain that would be damaged if they shook it that hard. Okay. And I say they have the opportunity. There are some students that just cannot handle it. I have trouble with it. You know, I do it, but there is that part of me that is, I'm never 100% comfortable shaking that, which I think many of us feel that way when we're working with that simulator or any type of simulator like that. There's always that emotional connection. So, and then, yeah, they reflect a little bit on, I just have some reflective questions that they're filling out while they're doing this. Now, some modifications that I did was I assigned each student a care. Okay. And they had to find a doll or a stuffed animal or a pillow. I mean, anything that they could practice. A couple of the cares, you know, diapers, some of them had to make diapers out of washcloths and stuff like that. But again, it was just more about practicing the, you know, how to wipe, how to bathe, how to just more than doing so they remember, okay, than having the proper equipment. I did the Shaken Baby demonstration, and the students recorded their reactions. I would have done it maybe a little bit differently. But it worked. It covered, they were pretty shaken by it. They had some emotion watching me do that. Another one of my ideas, and I was going to do this, so I thought of this towards the end of the parenting class in 2019, so last year. And I was going to do it this year, and I was really excited about it. And I had practiced with it at home before we all went into lockdown. I had this all dreamed up. But having this obstacle course and placing the baby in like a front carrier. And the purpose of this is to show them that doing normal tasks, like even jogging. So say a mom has their baby in the front carrier or the back carrier, and they have a toddler, and the toddler takes off, and mom has to go, chase it, or dad or caregiver has to go chase it. And the baby's kind of bouncing while the caregiver is running. That's not going to cause shaken baby. And that's the purpose of this obstacle course, is to show that a person has to really forcefully shake, throw, abuse this baby in order for it to have shaken baby syndrome. It's not, and you could even throw the baby up, the slings, any of that. You could even have the baby, strapped into a car seat 100%, the correct way, and have it tip like it tips off of a grocery cart, maybe if it's not on right, and show, that it takes a lot to simulate to harm the baby. And then lastly, the guest speaker panel. Having, guest speakers are great in our classes. I had quite a few come in during the pandemic because I felt like I was the one always talking to I felt like they were getting sick and tired of listening to my voice. And I was doing so much talking. Granted, we would have discussions, but it was different than when we were in person. So I asked a lot of different professionals, and I reached out to a lot of staff members around our building to talk about different pieces of our curriculum. And this is a great thing, having someone, and it could be two people, it could be one person, talk about how do they recognize shaken baby syndrome? What are the long-term effects if the baby survives of shaken baby syndrome, in getting just a glimpse what shaken baby syndrome is. So pediatrician, ER doctor, nurse, police officer, paramedic, social worker, anyone that would come into contact or encounter, a parent, caregiver, or child that's been shaken. So just some ideas. Again, reach out to your people. Zoom is great. And you could even do that. I even think about having someone Zoom in when we are back to regular in person. It might allow more people to join your classroom than having them physically come into the building, because sometimes that is a lot to ask of a person on their off day or if they're working. But as we've learned, a lot of people will join you from their home. And a lot of people, love to talk about their profession, about their passions, and preventing things. And I know a lot of, ER nurses and stuff like that would, that have some passion about this subject because they've seen it and they've seen, what Shaken Baby has done. Okay, and with that, I am done. Thank you for coming and listening. If I will be around to answer any questions after our presentation here. Thanks.